Hi, this is Allison Corbin, Director of Business Recruitment at Big Sky Economic Development. I'm joined by Karen Miller, our Director of Billings Works. This is actually her last day of work with us, so I appreciate her participating in one last Economic Impact webinar and also being a phenomenal team member for the last couple of years. It's been great working with her. So thank you, Karen.
You're welcome, Allison.
Yes, and so today we're going to walk through some updated economic impact data through some of the things we think you should be thinking about when we're talking about recovery, and also some consumer data. And then Karen's going to jump into more of a state level perspective and local perspective on what our unemployment insurance claims are doing, just because that's a consistent indicator that comes out on a more regular basis. So it's one of those first indicators that we actually have data on. So we'll get started. So as I talked about in each of the sessions that we've done, there is a lot of conversation and debate around how COVID-19 is going to impact us long term. And so it's that whole question of recession, so long recovery versus this being more like a natural disaster, which is a fast recovery. And I get into that a little bit more in a few slides. The second thing I think is critical, and I added a piece to it. So originally we were saying policy and duration are king and queen. So the policies that lawmakers took, so different governors shut down their states at different times, different counties are different. I've heard in California, every county is different, so there's been different approaches to how to manage the pandemic and how it's impacted businesses. So to what degree they had to close, and also duration. So places like Montana and Billings were open, we're leading the nation in when we got to open. And we closed at a similar time to most places in the nation. So those, of course, are still king and queen. And I wasn't sure what to make consumer behavior, maybe like the emperor or another piece of royalty, I wasn't sure. But I think that this is emerging to be more and more of the unknown, the question mark in all of this recovery conversation is we don't know how people are going to respond and how they're going to return to their previous before COVID-19 behaviors, or if they will return to those behaviors, or what's changed. So that's the really big unknown that we're trying to look for data to get our arms around what's going to happen. And finally, the last important consideration that I kind of walk through today is the speed of and effectiveness of federal programs and state unemployment are somewhat now unknown, because we do see the impact of some of the federal programs, and we have seen that a lot of people have successfully gotten on state unemployment, and so we do know that those dollars are getting activated in our economy. So here I revisit what I talked about in our very first economic impact conversation, and this is just looking at what happens in a disaster. And I keep going back to this because I think that when we talk about recovery and we look at what happens with disasters, in a disaster, it's a sudden event, just like COVID-19 was. It shut people down. One day our economy was strong, the next day we were shut down. So it was really, really dramatic and strong shutdown. It wasn't this long drawn out event. And why I keep going back to this in my mind is because the communities that successfully get resources to their businesses are going to be the ones that win in this recovery. Because like a disaster, what happens in a disaster is, like Hurricane Harvey. It happened, there was this huge amount of money that was concentrated in that one area from the SBA and from federal programs, disaster mitigation programs. That money is concentrated, and then you see that businesses are able to make it. And so with Hurricane Harvey, 85% of businesses made it. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the deployment of dollars to support businesses. And so I think as economic developers, we're thinking about how do we bring those tools to fruition? How do we grab all of those programs and opportunities that our businesses can access to make sure that they do have the capital that they need? So that's why I kind of brought this slide back. And as you can see, the idea of the impact is very similar to a slide you'll see later. So you see the green line on this. A lot of people are talking about the COVID-19 impact is going to look pretty much like a Nike swoosh, right? So it was really suddenly down, and then we're going to do a V shape back. And you can see that similar pattern in this green line as far as how it had the sudden sharp impact and then slowly comes back. And you can see here they recovered within a year. And I think it'll be longer for COVID-19, and most economists agree as well. But I just wanted to bring that framework back into mind when we're thinking about how we recover. Likewise, I threw these in. This is from Chimera Analytics. They talk about, a depression versus recession. And it was really scary to hear, our unemployment rates are at the same place they were with the Great Depression. They haven't been seen since then. And that's scary, and that creates a lot of media conversation around unemployment. But I think it's really important to note the duration of unemployment that occurred in the Great Depression. So it was a different animal. You can see that it was sustained, substantially sustained unemployment rates over a long period of time. You can see from basically 30, it started shooting up to 42. So it was a huge block of time. And that's really not what is anticipated with COVID-19. Likewise, you can see that it was a sustained drop in GDP. So those charts look very different than this next one. So this is from Patrick Barkey's presentation, and so the source is IHS Markit. And these are forecasts on what our GDP is going to do. So the orange is the initial forecast that was made in April. The gray is May, and they're staring back at you as that Nike swoosh. So that really sudden, intense closure and that V-shaped over time recovery. And so that looks really a lot different than the previous slide when we were looking at the Great Depression, where you have this sustained dip in GDP. We see that there will be recovery, and it might take to 2024 to get back on pace with where we anticipated being. But going into this, we had such a strong economy that it positions us well for recovery. And so when we talk about how have federal programs been effective in the community, the one that's been most widely utilized or accessed, and people have the funding and it's being implemented right now, is the PPP, so the Paycheck Protection Program out of the SBA. And this basically put people back to work. So either you were on PPP and back with your employer, or you were probably filing unemployment. So that was the two ways that people were still, you're still making it through COVID-19 if there's been a disruption within your business or your employer. And so this just shows you similarly how they expect unemployment would have gone if there had not been PPP versus having PPP. So they believe that there was a less dramatic impact on unemployment, and we see that in our local data as well. So how did Montana do in getting PPP dollars? So this is the most recent that the SBA has available. You can see that Montana did pretty well. We got $1.7 billion in PPP loans, which is very significant. In our region, some of the states in our area beat us out, definitely, but still a really sizable chunk of funding came to Montana. And when I looked at the number of establishments, it was over 20,000 establishments that had received those loans. So I think Montana's numbers might be a little bit lower, but I also believe that has something to do with how many small businesses we have. So people couldn't just take out an endless amount of money. It had to do with their employment and that type of thing. So I think that a lot of people access these programs, and we beat out Idaho, and some of those others were right in the pack. And then there's North Dakota, who just flew out of the water, which is interesting. So as far as PPP's impact on unemployment claims being filed, you can see the trend. You can tell when PPP hit, right? Because you have these dramatic number. So let's just focus on initial claims is important because it tells us, how many people are actively filing claims. But the chart to the other side shows you how many people overall are filing claims. And you can see that we peaked and then we're starting to move down. And that's what you want to see, and that's what they see on the national level because of the PPP program. So people are getting off unemployment, they're ending their claim, they're going back to their employer, which is really the goal, because you want that business to still be able, want to succeed, want to continue, be able to do its work, maybe position itself better for when customers can come back, if it's a business that was impacted in a way that consumers had to drop off. So another measure that we look at, and Karen's going to get deeper in this today, or deeper into this, but we have over 2,000 active job listings in Yellowstone County. And that's a really healthy measure. Like if we hold those numbers, real-time job listings, and that was at 0, that would be a really, really scary scenario. So to know that there's still, I think it's around 2,200 jobs available is encouraging for our economy. So the next thing I wanted to jump into is that piece that I talked about in the beginning, and that's the return of the consumer and how we get our arms around that. So I have a couple points that I think are what we need to pay attention to. So the first is we have to look at community health. So the health of the community is critical for people to be able to consume, both personal health and also the burden on the health system. And if people are able to stay healthy and if they get the virus, access the healthcare they need. The second thing that we need to be looking at is the consumer's spending power. So do people have jobs? Are they on unemployment? Are they still, do they still have money to spend? And finally, is that really hard one to anticipate and forecast, which is the perception and / reality of safety. And really, I think it leans more heavily on the side of perception, because if we don't feel like we're safe, then we're not going to be out engaging in the economy in the way that we used to. So when it comes to community health, I just grabbed this off the Representative Health Community, the United Health Command dashboard. And I think I encourage you to look at this. This is really breaks down for you what is critical for our community to continue to do well. So it's looking at staff monitoring and follow up with COVID cases. It's looking at our health system to understand how well is our health system doing and how is the burden on our health system. It's looking at, are we able to test? Are we able to follow up with the potential contacts for positive? And then also able to monitor the disease. And so this is really critical. And I know we don't always bridge health with business in our day-to-day life, but if I were a business owner, I would be watching this like hawk, because if any of these indicators start to shift a certain way, we get a huge number of positives, there's a higher burden on the healthcare system, then that might be signaling to us that there could be steps back in our ability to be open. So this is one thing I think we need to keep our eyes on. The second thing is a study done by Wallet Hub, and Montana actually fared very well in this study. And this is looking at the medically vulnerable population. So you can go to the next one. So Montana ranked number 46 out of 51, and low ranking is good. So we are one of the best states, one of the least vulnerable for COVID-19. And what they did is they looked at, when it comes to medical vulnerability, they looked at the number of people that had pre-existing conditions that put them at a disadvantage when trying to fight COVID virus. So that has to do with, hypertension or heart problems or kidney problems. There's a whole list that they looked at, but it was a pretty thorough list of what factors put people at greater risk. And so we fared well in that. It also looked at housing vulnerability, so homelessness, people at risk of homelessness, and then financial vulnerability. And this looked at, are people paying their bills on time? How often in our state are people not paying on time, and other debt indicators as an individual consumer. And so in all of those, so in housing, we didn't rank as well. We were ranked more vulnerable. But for both financial and medically vulnerable, we ranked well, giving us a pretty solid overall ranking. And I just think this is interesting. If you're a data geek like me, you should absolutely dig into this study. The Wallet Hub medical vulnerability study is really interesting, just because of the level of detail they went into to determine how vulnerable our population is. The last thing that I found, it's really hard to get consumer data. And so what we'll be doing in the upcoming weeks and months on a local level is collecting this survey data from businesses. So we'll do primary source data. But what I pulled this for, and this is open table reservations. So this is looking at active reservations in these communities or in these states. We don't collect for Montana. I think we don't have enough volume to make it, to make the cut. Neither does Idaho, in fact. But so I chose some of the states I thought might have had similar timelines for us, to us with opening, have Some other similarities as far as industry mixes are kind of in the Mountain West, not totally. I threw in Texas just because we have some, similarities in culture. And so you can see that the United States is slowly on a trend to recover. That's the dark blue line. But it was interesting to see Colorado, the orange in the bottom. They recently opened up, and you can really see that shot up pretty substantially. And so while we're still, even Texas, who's doing the best, is down 60% year over year in reservations, it's trending the right way. And so I think that speaks to consumers' confidence in going to a restaurant and sitting down and engaging that way, which is encouraging. So the next thing that I just wanted to touch on is it's just the perception of safety. So it's really hard to understand what people perceive. We could survey it, which is maybe something we'll do down the road, is, how do you perceive your safety? But there has been an initiative with Yellowstone County to, this Open and Safe initiative, to really facilitate a dialogue around how do you feel safe in this establishment and how can you feel safer? And I think that's a really critical conversation that people need to be having with their customers to make sure that they're meeting expectations and making it so people want to come back and feel as though doing so is not putting them in any sort of jeopardy. So I just threw that logo on there, and that's available on the Yellowstone County Recovery website. So you can easily add that to your front window. You can get a sticker or poster as well. All the information is on the Yellowstone County Recovery website. So finally, I go back to the vulnerability index that we started with. So I'll get through this pretty quickly. Because I don't think we can lose sight of the fact that we are a really vulnerable county just economically. So we are regional trader, we are a regional hub, so we have all this restaurant, retail, wholesale, trade that comes to our community. It's what makes us strong in good times, but it also makes us so vulnerable in the time of COVID-19 because we have those industries that are the most vulnerable at a high concentration in our community. So these are the most vulnerable industries ranked, and as you can see, it's pretty clear why Billings ranks pretty high. I mean, arts, entertainment, recreation, we have a decent amount of that. Hotels, food services, some of the hardest hit, especially hotels. That is a really big challenge with lack of travel. Wholesale trade, transportation and warehousing, which we're a huge transportation and warehousing hub, and other services that encompasses things such as your hairdresser, your dry cleaner, the auto body repair person. And as you can expect, those get hit pretty hard because they pull regionally. We have an immense number of hairdressers per capita, and that's not because Billings gets its haircut every week. It's because of the draw that we have regionally. So just revisiting which are the most vulnerable. And also keeping in mind how we rank within our peers. So we are a little bit more vulnerable than the peers that we look at, and I think it's really based around the industries that we have and the that we are that regional hub. And so just keeping perspective on, of 3,141 counties, we're number 322 for vulnerable based on our industries. And finally, this just gives you a picture of how many people are in the most vulnerable industries. So when you add the two most vulnerable industries, we're at almost 12,000 people in those two most vulnerable industries. And you can walk on down the line. Retail trade is also a significant area of our employment. And this was just the initial, because of COVID-19, the initial shock. You would expect to lose about 10,620 jobs. And that mark is actually relatively close to what our highest filings for unemployment insurance were. But the idea is that that's what that's the shock, that's the down part, and then it's the recovery. And so this number, I think, definitely was relatively accurate. And when we get a breakdown by industry on unemployment insurance claims, we can better match that up. So I look forward to that data. We should have that soon. So I will turn it over to Karen.
All right, thanks, Allison. So we're going to go through this really quickly. Right here, what you're looking at is just a daily intake of Montana's unemployment insurance claims. So this is going back quite a ways. As you can see, really a pretty steady pattern. People tend to put their claims, during the beginning of the week. And then as we go through, obviously we can see the big spikes in the end of March, and then of course again in April. Again, these are all of those claims. So this is initial claims, filing for payment requests, redetermination, and reactivation. So this is all of those claims being filed. This, of course, came out in a big press release from Department of Labor and Industry just about how unemployment insurance claims have financially affected Montana. And so if you look at this, this is from March 29th through April 5th. We were almost paid out almost $8 million in unemployment insurance, and then the total number of payments made just under 25,000 there for the whole state. Okay, we'll go through really quickly. It's the state level data, and all of this can be found on Department of Labor and Industry's website, and they update it regularly. Really helpful data. So in addition to unemployment claims, we also pay attention to layoff events that are reported. Oftentimes the state has businesses report these events to Department of Labor and Industry. Now again, the orange line is the businesses having layoff events, and then the blue line is the number of workers affected. Not really surprising, this goes back to May of 2018. And then you can see how different May of 2018 versus May of 2020 is with that big spike of both layoff events and workers affected due to COVID-19. All right, now this is taking that data and basically shrinking it down to a shorter amount, time frame. So this is just March, the beginning of March to the end of March, beginning of April. Again, you can see a big spike right in the middle of March going through the 1st of April as far as those layoff events and workers affected go. At this point, you know, it was peaking of workers, 4,182 workers were affected, and then we had 206 business layoff events. Really important to note that these numbers are most likely underestimated because not every event is reported to Department of Labor and Industry, and so these numbers are most likely low. Okay, so let's go to unemployment insurance claims. So what you're looking at right now is a nice line graph that tells you the initial claims that are being filed across the state of Montana. So anybody putting in a new unemployment insurance claim. So again, not surprising that we have this spike here right at the end of March, beginning of April. And then if you look right around May 16th, we had 4,432 people filing an initial claim for that week. And as Allison pointed out earlier, you can also see the effects of PPP in this line graph, right? So we have a big spike, and then as people are using funds to bring people off unemployment, keeping them in their workplace, bringing them off of work, we're gonna see a downturn in unemployment claims. Okay, so this is now monitoring, this is actually, it says continued claims, but this is actually taking continued claims and initial claims. So this is actually all of the people who are filing for unemployment insurance here. So if you look, we're very steady before COVID-19 happens. Again, we have this big peak, and then we actually did top up at 56,120 people filing an unemployment insurance claim. Now, this does not mean that's how many people were on unemployment. That's saying who filed the claim. So some of these claims people were not eligible for. But what we wanted to show was just how many people were reaching out for assistance because of due to job loss or reduction of hours. Again, you can see how we're starting to go back into a recovery. Most likely this is from PPP and some financial assistance to businesses where we're seeing claims drop off. All right, so Allison went over this earlier. This is the same data, but this is specifically for Yellowstone County. So it's not surprising that we see the peak right around April, and that we start to dive down. On the left are your initial claims, so people filing a new claim, and then on your right, that's a total number of people filing claims. Again, some of those claims are not eligible, but this is just showing how many people are looking for assistance. And again, in both, we're seeing that big spike, and then now as we go back into some recovery, having that go back to normal as people are either not needing to file a claim or they're getting called back to work. All right, so I love this map of Montana. This is really looking at the change in numeric value of claims from a year ago. So if you look at Yellowstone County, from April of 2020, we have now 8,053 more claims than we did in April of 2019. So we have that many more claims this year than we did last year. And basically what this is showing is that amount in a percentage of upgrade. So this is the change. So in unemployment insurance claims, we've had a huge boost. So we are up by 1,381% in Yellowstone County, which is, of course, not necessarily hugely surprising because of COVID-19. We saw that big peak. Again, shouldn't be surprising, but the counties that have the highest percentage of increase are those with the highest population. But if you look across, you can see that those numbers, the change in percentage is high for just about every county in Montana. Okay, so in addition to layoff events and numbers of workers affected in unemployment insurance, we also look at how many job postings are out there. So in addition to how many people are getting laid off and job loss, we're looking at what are the opportunities out there. So this actually monitors job postings. So the number of job postings in the United States, Montana, and then Yellowstone County. So if you look, Yellowstone County is that dark blue line, the United States is that mustardy gold, and then Montana is that lighter blue. And what's interesting is that these three communities kind of dance together. Looking at March 17th, Yellowstone County had the largest decline in job postings, with the United States in the middle and Montana doing the best in this circumstance. But then if you go to the most recent end of March, the United States was down 18%, Montana was down 10%, Yellowstone County was down 10%, with Montana down just over 4%. So Yellowstone County is kind of in the middle there. What is interesting is across the state, because of our highest population, Yellowstone County does have the most job postings posted for the state of Montana. So even though we are down, we definitely have the most opportunities due to our highest population. Okay, so of that, Allison also touched on this, but who is hiring? This is great. We have real-time intelligence to tell us of those job postings, what are the industries that are hiring? Retail salespeople being number one, first-line supervisors of those retail salespeople being number two, and then of course RNs are there in number three. So really just interesting to look at who is hiring out there. Really important information as we adapt and we create retraining, new training, education programs for those displaced workers. Okay, this is also interesting. Of those job postings, we actually ranked at the certifications that those job postings were requesting. So these were the most sought after certifications in job postings. So driver's license being number one, but then really interesting that we get into healthcare. So again, a big industry for Yellowstone County, and the need is most definitely there as far as certification. So again, great information for job service and for our education and training partners to know what our displaced workers are going to need as far as those retraining certifications to re-enter the workforce. Here's the most sought after hard skills. Again, really interesting for us to look at. So in job postings, what those employers and recruiters are looking for most. So obviously a lot of tech skills with Microsoft Office and Microsoft Excel. But then, you know, we've got food preparation up there too. So even though that was a hard hit industry, as people are coming back, they need those people who have food preparation skills. And then probably my favorite topic, the employability skills topic. Here are the most sought after soft skills. So again, not super surprising that communication and customer service are up there, but what's great for us is that we know a lot of our displaced workers were in the retail and service industries, and so they are well versed in customer service and communication skills. And so how can we readjust and share in some workers in retraining processes to get those displaced workers back into the workforce, if not in their previous job, into a new job that industries are still hiring and looking for. So with that, I'll just reiterate really what Allison said. When it comes to the workforce, Yellowstone County is feeling obviously the effects of COVID-19. However, it seems like we are doing a pretty darn good job of getting information out there and just continuing to partner with Job Service, Department of Labor and Industry, getting funds out there so people can either return to work with PPP loans or look at opportunities for how they can use this time to get some upskilling and retraining so that they can re-enter the workforce at a different level. So with that, Allison, I will turn it back over to you for closing remarks.
All right. Well, thank you, Karen. Hopefully that was helpful and gives you a strong overview. We definitely look forward to surveying our business community again in the future, in probably the next several weeks, and also looking at a deeper dive by industry on how businesses are navigating this recovery. So that's exciting. I do encourage you to look at the Governor's Office of Economic Development. It's actually with the Department of Commerce. Those grants that the governor's team has available at the state level, please go look at those. Those are pretty comprehensive for lots of different things, and so we encourage you to look at that. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and please let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.